With the HAEE annual Energy Transition Symposium. We have a very interesting panel today, and I'll be glad to moderate it. I'm Dimitris, Pefanis, director of insider.gr, and today's panel is about the renewable energy sector and the Greek potential. We have a lot of distinguished speakers on the panel, and without further ado, I'd like to give the floor to the Honorable Adonis Georgiadis, the Minister of Development and Investments, for the keynote speech that will kick off today's event and will set up the stage for the discussion that is to come. Mr. Georgiadis, the floor is yours.
Should I speak wearing the mask or not? I don't know.
If not possible, yeah, and you can take the panel if you want.
Okay, I will take the panel. And since I'm here, I can take the mask off.
Of course.
In order to be heard better. So, first of all, thank you for the invitation. It's a great honor for me being here. It's very important what you did in a 3-day conference about energy transition, which maybe is the biggest challenge of our era, not only for Greece, not only for European Union, but most probably for the humanity. Climate change urges humanity to change the way we worked before, try to find new solutions, renewable solutions, green solutions in the energy sector that will help us save the future of the next generations. In this aspect, European Union and the target European Union has set about the energy transition is the most ambitious in the planet, and we are very proud that we are a member of the European Union in this period that one more time, Europe is in the first stage of showing to the rest of the world what we have to do in order to make our future brighter. And I can say that I'm very proud that I participate to a government that our Prime Minister, almost the first month that we were elected in September 2019, announced one very important decision to decarbonize our energy sector faster than anybody else in Europe. As I'm sure you know here, we will close all of our lignite plants until 2023, except one that will stay a little bit longer because it's very, very new and much more friendly to the environment. This decision, which was not an easy decision because some places of Greece, especially Western Macedonia and in Peloponnesus Megalopolis, they had an economy for many decades that was totally dependent through lignite plants. So this decision, some years ago, was totally out of the question, and the only discussion we had in the country is how we would find a way to continue using lignite plants and save the jobs of the people that are working in these plants for many decades, them and their families in the past. But Kyriakos Mitsotakis, with a very brave decision, changed that. He announced day one that he wants to transit Greece to a more friendly, energy-friendly environment. In the beginning, many people were skeptical. In this region, we had a lot of conflicts and people that were very much afraid. But now, 1 year after, everything is much more calm because all the people there see that we are doing a very professional job. We are, me, Mr. Hatzidakis, and the man that we put in charge in this transition, Mr. Mousouroulis, almost every second week in the region, discuss with the mayors, with the prefecture, with the business community of the region, and we are providing them with all the information of our plan about what we're going to do in order to make this transition possible. As I'm sure you know, we have under public discussion our master plan about what we're going to do in these regions that had the lignite plants. And from early 2021, this master plan will start to be implemented in a very fast way in order to save jobs, to make big investments, to invest in renewable energy, in which I will come short after, in order to show first that we have a plan that we will secure their jobs, that we will provide them, I mean the people of the regions, a much better future, and that will follow our decision and will show to Europe a good example about what we really can do if we work hard and we stay to our plan. I'm sure you understand, since I'm here in a conference of energy and many experts are here, and I want to thank Your Excellencies being here with us and having this good discussion, that Greece has a natural advantage in renewable energy. We have plenty of sun, we have plenty of wind, so all this year we were talking about these advantages and we never set them in motion. This government decided this has to be changed. And we used our decision about the decarbonizing sector of our energy as the motive in order to go faster in this area, give incentives. We voted legislation that simplifies all the legislation procedure of all the solar and wind power plants. And of course, we are putting a lot of money, and from the Transition Monetary Fund of European Union, and of the ordinary European funds, and from the COVID recovery fund, and we have fixed a master plan that will be funded more than 5 billion euros in the next years, only in these regions, in various business projects. But one of the key sectors, maybe the first key sector of the economy, will be the renewable energy. Just because in this region we have the extra advantage. Solar and wind is almost everywhere in Greece, so you can do business almost anywhere. But there we have already the cable lines that will transit the energy that will be produced anywhere to Greece or to the Balkans or to the Western Europe very easy and very cheap, since the infrastructure is already there because it was used by the lignite plants, and since we have a lot of land that now it will be spared and will be easy to be transformed to another way of producing electricity. So with the simplification of our legislation, with the incentives we are giving in this region, and with the energy need that we'll have in our market due to the closing of the lignite plants, we think that we are establishing a very business-friendly environment in order to have a lot of investments in this area, especially in this region, and of course in the rest of the country. I have, of course, to tell you that our ambition is not only to have investments in this particular region. Maybe there is an extra incentive and our will to go a little bit faster, but the legislation we are voting apply to the whole of the country. And our main ambition in the government is to transform Greece in the next 3 years, in which we have the next elections, to the most business-friendly country of European Union, if we can. This is the reason we work very hard, not only the Ministry of Development and Investment, but throughout all the government, to find out all the problems that potential investors could have coming in Greece. We're changing all the legislation that could have obstacles. We give the incentives that we can under European law, of course, and European authorities. And we show to all the potential investors that we are here to respect their time and money and help them to make their vision possible and money. We believe that throughout their success, we can promote the success of the country and have even more potential investors here in Greece. We want to change all the image that Greece had in the recent years as a failed state or as a state that if you go, you will only have problems, and reverse it to a place that when you will go, you will find people that you will be able to solve your problems and make your life easier. This is our biggest will. I have to mention that 2020, and for Greece as for the rest of Europe and the planet, was a very strange year because of COVID-19. Of course, this changed all the plans we had, and we had to adjust ourselves to a totally new environment. But in a strange way, even though the damage in our economy was huge, and it still is, and there is the uncertainty of the vaccine and when the pandemic will start to slow down, because until today we have, unfortunately, a second wave that is very strong. But during this crisis of COVID-19, of the pandemic, Greece managed to restore a lot of our reputation that was lost in the recent years. Mostly because in the beginning of the crisis, many people and foreign institutions thought that Greece would have total chaos under the pandemic because of our healthcare system that was not ready, or because our population that was aging, and the state that wasn't working properly. We proved to them that they were wrong. Our healthcare system managed to stand. Our people followed the rules. The government took fast decisions, and we managed to have one of the best performances under pandemic in the first wave. And now in the second wave, we still have much better performance than many other countries that can be parallelized with us, with the same population or kind of society. And we show that when we say something, we really mean it. And in the economy, in the beginning of this pandemic crisis, all the foreign institutions, either IMF, either European Commission or other, they had predicted that Greece, exactly because of our dependence on tourism, would have the worst performance in our economy than any other European country. And after 6 months, the European Commission has revised their prediction for Greece twice to the better. I will give an example. IMF had predicted that in the second quarter of 2020, Greece would have below 25 recession in the quarter. At the end, we had 15% recession, exactly the average of European Union. It was 10% better than the original prediction. And of course, it's huge. Of course, it's big. But even though that tourist industry is the biggest sector of our economy, we managed to find ways to sustain our economy and still be functional and be ready when the vaccine is in the market to have a very strong reverse of our economy. And I'm totally confident that if the vaccine will come, Greece economy in 2021 will have a fantastic performance. Of course, I'm telling you again, there is an uncertainty if the vaccine will come. It's not something that our government can decide. It's something that we have to wait the doctors and the researchers to find it. But I'm still optimistic that this will happen soon enough. And when the pandemic will start to slow down, Greece will be ready to have more investments and to show that all this difficult period, we did our job and we are ready to make the life of the investors easier and put Greece again in the world map of foreign direct investments. Last but not least, I'm very proud as Minister of Development and Investment of Hellenic Republic that in the first year of my term, Greece upgraded 9 seats to the world rating of competitiveness, which was the best performance we had throughout a year in the recent decades. In the EY indicator of foreign direct investments, we upscaled by 6 positions. And the most important, the predictions for 2021 and 2022 are even much better. So we look forward to the future with optimism. We are working hard. We believe to our plan. We continue the reforms. We are ready to use the COVID-19 Recovery Fund of European Union in a very sophisticated way. I wish you a good month since now is the 1st of October. But at the end of this month, we will have publicized our master plan about how we're going to use the extra 32 billion of the recovery fund, in which, with the ordinary European funding, combines for the next 6 years to a huge amount of money for Greece economy, up to 72 billion. And we're going to use this money in a very sophisticated way, not just spreading money around, but transforming our country, continuing the reforms, and changing our economy to a much more competitive way, because we think that this is a big opportunity that Greece cannot lose. And with great responsibility, hard working with experts and solid plan, we will show to the rest of Europe that now Greece has left far behind all the bad habits of the past, and we are really willing to change our country. So thank you very much for the invitation, and I will answer to any question.
Thank you very much, Minister, and I'm really happy for the optimistic tone you gave us. We're in much great need of good news, and definitely what you said and what we'll have the opportunity to talk about later will shed light on the plans of the government and the incentives the government will give for not only for the energy sector but for the economy in general. And so, moving on, I'd like to introduce the rest of the panel. And I'm really delighted and honored to have you with me. We have His Excellency Patrick Maisonnave, the French Ambassador to the Hellenic Republic, with us. Éric Scotto, the Chairman or co-founder of Akuo Energy, and Aristotelis Chantavas, the Head of Europe area for Enel Wind Power, and also the President for the SolarPower Europe. But before we move on to the live discussion, we'll have Her Excellency Patrizia Falcinelli, the Italian Ambassador to Hellenic Republic, greet us with a video message and setting up the stage for the discussion that is to come. So please, can we have the video message from Her Excellency, the Ambassador, and then we can move on to the discussion.
Honorable Minister, dear participants, good morning. I'm really sorry not to be able to attend the symposium today, but I would like to thank the organizers for the opportunity they gave me to send this video. Energy transition, and in particular the potential of renewable energy sources, are crucial subjects to be discussed, both in terms of energy innovation and, of course, economic growth. As a matter of fact, renewable energies are at the basis of any economic and environmental strategy aimed at countering climate change and achieving sustainable development goals. Moreover, in the last years, we have been witnessing the increasing competitiveness of renewable energy technologies. They have become financially more and more efficient. They have shifted from being niche resources to crucial factor for environmental sustainability, but also to key element to economic systems competitiveness. Renewables are transforming the global energy sector at a rate that no one had ever foreseen until now. Italy considers the development of renewable energy sector as a priority. In recent years, renewable energy have consolidated their role in our national energy mix and constitute a key component for our sustainable development. My country ranks 8th as renewable sources installed capacity, second only to Germany in the EU family. In this perspective, Italy is implementing a strategy aiming to reach a carbon-neutral economy by 2050. Besides, our National Integrated Plan for Energy and Climate has been adopted at the beginning of this year, tracking the path from here to 2030 and laying down incentives and procedures to promote efficiency and sustainability of energy uses. Just to give you a few numbers, in 2018, renewables accounted for 20.5% of total energy demand in Italy. Our 2030 target is 30% of renewables on gross final consumption. In this global framework, Italy and Greece are important key players. They have since ever taken advantage of fruitful cooperation and partnership in many sectors, but in the last years, the energy segment has shown unprecedented opportunities to become the pivot of the sustainable development and resilient economy, as the recent post-pandemic crisis has shown. For this reason, Greece and Italy have decided to further strengthen their cooperation and signed last year a memorandum of understanding to enhance energy collaboration, with the goal of guaranteeing access to secure, clean, affordable, and sustainable energy. As an evidence of the Italian company's expertise in the renewable energy sources field, I'm really pleased that you are hosting today the representative of a very important player. Italy is the home market of the world's largest private renewable operator, Enel, an Italy-based multinational power company and an integrated operator in the global power, gas and renewable markets. Enel plays a leading role in the energy transition sector, thanks to an installed capacity of more than 46 gigawatts. Its presence in Greece is extremely important. In October 2019, Enel Green Power inaugurated the biggest wind farm in the country, the Kafirias wind project in Evia Island. Thanks to an installed capacity of 154 megawatts, the Kafirias wind farm will generate approximately 480 gigawatt hours per year. Let's not forget that Enel's investment in the project amounted to around 300 million euros, thus giving a crucial support to the country's strategy towards energy transition. The agreement between Enel and Akuo Energy is a further important step in the path of the country's decarbonization and on the strategic partnership between our two countries. I'm sure you will have a fruitful discussion today, and I look forward to receiving any outcome from your very interesting event. Thank you for your attention and good work to everybody. Bye.
And after this very insightful video and message from Her Excellency, the Italian Ambassador, I would like to give the floor to the French Ambassador. Your Excellency, Patrick Maisonnave, please, you have the floor so as to have an initial input, and then we can move on to the conversation. Thank you very much.
Okay, hello everyone, and thank you. I'm very proud, very honored to be here today. And obviously, after what the minister has said and what the Italian ambassador has said, I can be rather short here, as we obviously know that climate change is the most pressing issue for our generation and probably the next after ours. I remember what a former president, French president, said in 2002. I think it was in Johannesburg, when he said that our house is burning. Maybe you remember that phrase. It was almost 20 years ago, but I think that today there is a growing consensus among politicians and populations that there is no possible escape. Reducing greenhouses emissions and moving towards alternatives to carbon energies are obviously the major challenges of modern times, and I should add challenges on which the future of humanity relies. So I believe we are at a crossroad. And having said that, it is also obvious to me that moving to a post-carbon era will be a long way, but also, let's assume that truth, an uncertain process. For some kinds of reasons I would like to recall. The first one is that, as we know, a prominent nation has decided to withdraw from the Paris Accord. And here and today, I would like to express the wish that the next US administration, whatsoever, will return to this crucial agreement. Then we know that hundreds of millions of people around the world do already suffer from the consequences of climate change, and possibly our turn will come. Three, we know that climate change has already generated geopolitical consequences as stakes and conflicts related to climate change have multiplied. And last but not least, it seems to me that looking for alternative energies is only one dimension of the ecological transition we must address. It is obvious that we will have to change in the next decades. We will have to change our systems, the whole system, including urban planning, mobilities, productive systems, etc., etc. So it's a kind of revolution we have to prepare. Facing those challenges, I think we have basically two main choices, competition or cooperation. My belief is that, in fact, there is no alternative to cooperation, no alternative to looking together to the future. The alternative, if any, is and will be more conflicts between nations. Minister, you mentioned the EU as an example of the necessary cooperation we need to face the collective challenges. Setting the objectives that Europe will become, should become, and hopefully will become the first carbon neutral continent by 2050 is quite bold. It is a huge endeavor. It means probably public and private investments between 250 and 300 million euros a year, but it is also a paramount ambition for Europe. And as you said, Minister, I'm very happy, as you are, and very happy and very proud to be a European citizen today. I have listened carefully to what you said, Minister, and I would like here to commend your personal dedication to a Green Deal. And to be honest, I'm very impressed by the very ambitious plan that this Greek government has adopted. I am also convinced that Greece has the necessary potential to become a hub in the field of alternative energies. You were very convincing mentioning that point, and obviously I hope we will come back to this during this discussion. I'm impressed by what has been done in this country for a year to create conditions for foreign investments. As you said, you have, let's say, paved the way to create a business-friendly environment. It is obviously very important for foreign investors, and especially for French investors. And so I'm really impressed by what you have already achieved. And I think this is good for economic transition, but also for the recovery and for the growth of Greece in the next years. Thank you. Merci.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, and definitely we'll return to the points you mentioned. And we had a really good outlook from the political and the geopolitical side of things, if you want. So we can shift on to the more business perspective of renewable energy. So I'd like to call to the panel Mr. Éric Scotto, the chairman and co-founder of Akuo Energy, to give us an initial insight. Mr. Scotto, if you want to come to the panel, yes, that would be great.
Thank you. Yes. Yes, absolutely.
Few years ago, at every energy conference, there was a guy, Claude Turmes, member of the European Parliament at that time. He was always referring to Greece, always. He was blaming EU institutions and banks for allowing fast uptake of renewable energy in this windy and sunny country. He kept on asking, how come we cannot have more renewable energy in this country? Was all the natural resources. Today is over, and Claude must be happy. And today is the Minister of Energy in Luxembourg. No one can pretend that the renewable energy transition is not happening here. Figures are telling yearly increase of renewable energy production is massive. I even read that by the end of 2025, I'm always skeptical about figures, but that's what I read. Renewable energy are anticipated to represent 75% of the total energy produced in Greece. This is not happening by chance, but thanks to a strong political willingness. And I'm glad to sit with you today, Mr. Georgiadis. As Greek state can be proud of the investment policy for renewable energy it is running. As private developers, we cannot do without bold commitments at state levels. Targets, auctions, connections to the grid, and grid strengthening are all in your hands. Now it is our responsibility to come up with appropriate solutions, tackling the diversity of your country. Let me name it a few. No competition with agriculture, agri-energy, use of reservoir, floating solar, citizens' involvement, crowdfunding, combined roof usage and aesthetic, solar tiles. For all these innovative approaches, we need the Greek state by our side. We know how to do it. We know it brings territories much more than only green electricity, but it is important we build the story together. Of course, we are also capable of building large wind farms and solar plants. Our duty is to make it cheaper. And this is why it is important that we can find the best ally to do so. Akuo decided to open an office in Greece 2 years ago, and we are proud to be here. Today, we are proceeding with a big investment portfolio because we trust in the determination of the Greek government to further improve the environment in the country and focus investments in the green energy sector. The National Energy Plan recently adopted is fully aligned with the EU Green Deal, and it is actually showing the way to the other EU countries. So Akuo is more than Greek, is more Greek than ever. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Scotto, and we'll definitely get back to your investments and your outlook in Greece and the things to have in mind for our country, because FDI is crucial, especially at these times. And for the last of our, but not least of our discussions, Mr. Chantavas, please come to the floor for the initial presentation, then we can move on to the discussion of the panel.
Let me just take care of the mask. So, thank you for having me today. It's an honor for me to be part of this panel of excellent people that are here to discuss the future of energy in our country. For me, I'm representing Enel Green Power, who is a part of Enel Group. Starting from the first slide of the presentation, it's important to highlight that today Enel has become the leading utility in the world. We are the largest company in renewable energy with more than 46 gigawatts of assets around the globe. And at the same time, we grow faster than competition. We install more than 3 gigawatts per year, and the plan for the next year is to reach a much bigger scale of investments annually. Beyond that, we are the first distribution network operator globally with 73 million of end customers. And at the same time, we have the largest base of retail customers with approximately 70 million customers. And it's worthy to mention that we are based in 5 continents and 32 countries, keeping, of course, expanding every month in new geographies. All this with a remarkable financial performance, with an annual EBITDA of 17.9 billion euros for last year. Here in this slide, you can see also the map of where we are based in terms of renewables. From 2008 that we came to Greece, we recognized the country's untapped wealth of renewable resources, and since then, we have pursued a sound financial and industrial strategy. The strategy has allowed us to overcome several obstacles throughout the years, including the economic recession. During the recession, we initiated and completed the landmark investment in Kafireas area, which was one of the biggest investments that took place in Greece in the last decade, an investment of more than 300 million euros. Today, Enel Green Power is already a leading owner and operator of 58 renewable plants in the country, including wind, solar, and hydro facilities. These projects are in 24 different Greek prefectures, both in mainland and in the islands, and a total installed capacity of 475 megawatts. But let's try to deep dive into the Greek energy market, analyzing the current status and the next step towards reaching the target of 2030 national energy and climate plans. There are some ideas that I think it would be wise to focus in the coming months in, let's say, overcoming some of the barriers that maybe could boost further the development of the market and attract more investments. On renewable energy projects development, as of today, the tender scheme has been proven successful, while permitting simplifications are ongoing. The current government has moved into several decisive measures, and I think that further steps are underway. Of course, the tender scheme should be prolonged for a reasonable time with a sufficient capacity, while the permitting process should be reduced to less than 2 years in order for the investments to be attractive to various investors from around the world. Stepping into the repowering issue, it is important to mention that it is a 100% sustainable choice and a necessary step to achieve the renewable targets as a country. With repowering, we minimize the interventions needed since we execute works in the already permitted and impacted areas, maximizing the potential. In most of the cases, it's already accepted by the local communities. The environmental extra footprint is limited by avoiding massive investments in areas with low resource. Another important point is the flexibility of the energy system and the services that can be offered to the consumer. We are still missing in the country zero-emission technologies which can provide uninterrupted flexibility, such as battery storage and demand response services. Our market rules need to be harmonized with the EU regulations, and the new tenders should include renewable projects coupled with storage. Last but not least, I would like to talk about corporate PPAs, something new for the Greek market, but something that is already skyrocketing in cutting-edge markets. We believe that the target model, when it matures, will definitely unlock this potential. We need to prioritize the regulatory framework initiatives in order for the green power demand to grow rapidly. Thank you very much, and I'm looking forward to the discussion.
Thank you very much as well. And we really have a lot to talk about. There were quite a few very interesting points raised, and there are a lot of topics that need either clarification or we can go into more detail. And I'd like to start with the Minister. Minister, you mentioned a lot, and it's on everybody's mind, the recovery fund and the 72 billion that are coming to the Greek economy during the next years. At the same time, investors are waiting, and they need incentives for extra FDIs in the country. As far as your ministry is concerned, what incentives are you planning to give, and how will these incentives combine with the extra liquidity coming from the European Union?
First of all, let me make a comment. During the last decade, here in Greece, there was a big public discussion about either you were pro or anti-European. With the most difficult year, 2015, and this very famous referendum we had in the 5th of July of 2015. Many people doubted at that period of time of the austerity measures, the memorandum, and the problems we had in the economy, if it was worth to be a member of the European Union. Today, I think the 100% of Greek people understand that if we weren't a member of European Union, Eurozone, we would be in real trouble, and we had practically no future. So I want to tell you as a first comment that I want to thank European Union for all this extra European funding. We understand that this is a big decision for Europe. We have to say thanks to the European countries that contribute in the budget with a lot of billions in order to find a way to find common solutions. And this is the good European example that we want in order to make Europe go a step forward. Having said that, you understand that we realize that this money is a big responsibility and we have to use them with wisdom. Of course, there will be incentives, and under European law, of course, and you will see when we will publish our concrete master plan, because there is some procedure now ongoing. First, this committee, Psaridis committee, will issue in the next days their final script about what we really want to do with our country in the years to come and where we want to go. And then, under this national plan, we'll fit all the funding that we have from Europe, not only the recovery funding, but also the other ordinary European funding, in order to find ways to achieve this goal and go Greece exactly where we want to go. So you will see that until the end of this month, there will be a very clear field about the potential investors to understand what they can do, how they can do in this country in a very transparent and very stable way. We want to give the market stability and the sense of security that we know what they're doing, and the businessmen that will come and the investors, they will know what they will have to deal with, which we think is very important in order to have a stable and a good investment. And of course, I have to thank Enel and Akuo for their investments in Greece. And Your Excellency, France is always a big partner of our country. You know that there is a Greek proverb, Greece and France are allies. I don't know, I'm sure you've heard it. And I want to thank you and to you, your president, and your whole country for the big help France gave to Greece all these recent weeks.
Thank you very much, Minister. And we are all looking forward to the incentives and to the clarification of the roadmap ahead of all of Greece.
The clarification will be in a solid plan. It's not good for me to just say we'll give that or that, because this will be a chaos. There will be, let's say, a manual for investments, and you will be able to know exactly what you can do, where you can do, what you have to expect on that.
Let me say that that's a first for Greece, and that's a first that we're really looking forward to. So, Your Excellency, Ambassador Maisonnave, it's clear that we live in interesting times, both due to the pandemic, but also due to the development in the region. So I'd like you to give us a geopolitical perspective in terms of how have the geopolitics of the global energy transition shifted during the current period, and what's the outlook for the future, both in Greece but also in the broader area?
Yes, thank you. What is obvious to me is that the competition for carbon energies, be it oil or natural gas, has, let's say, framed the relations between nations for maybe 100 years, maybe more, and has probably generated numerous conflicts around the world. I don't have to remind about the competition for oil in the Middle East at the time of Cold War, and more recently. I don't have to remind the growing needs of petrol, gas, and other raw material that has created the conditions for tremendous geopolitical changes and tensions around the world. And as the minister said previously, I don't have to remind that close to Athens at this very moment, exploration campaigns for natural gas are obviously jeopardizing the sovereignty of two EU member states. So, in a sense, the race for natural gas will remain a destabilizing factor. As gas will remain, we may like it or not, but gas will remain part of energy transition for some time. But I also do believe that it can be an issue for cooperation. And for instance, I have in mind the EastMed project. That is an excellent example for possible cooperation. Obviously, this is a long-term perspective. This is expensive project, but it is the example of a multinational cooperation that is necessary. And obviously, I do believe that in the perspective of energy transition, based on new technologies and renewable sources of energy, be it solar, wind, or hydrogen, I think this can create the conditions for a better world. And this is why, and this is precisely the reason why we have to invest massively in this sector.
Thank you very much, Ambassador, and we'll definitely come back to that. There's a lot of things to talk about, and especially as the Minister mentioned, the Greek-France alliance has a huge role to play in the renewable energy sector as well, so I'll get back to you on that. But before that, I'd like to move on to Mr. Scotto and ask him if we were, it's pretty clear that if we were having this discussion a year ago, we'd be definitely talking completely differently. So in what ways has the pandemic changed your business model, and what are your plans for now, given the evolving situation? What's your outlook for the future?
This time is very interesting because of this pandemic, we realize that during the blackout, the sun hasn't stopped to shine, the wind hasn't stopped to blow, and we've been able to produce all the energy we needed at that time, during that time. I think people realize how strong is renewable energy and how strong it is to produce our own energy. And Greek is an incredible example. As I was mentioning earlier, is one of the rare countries where quickly we're going to be able to meet the targets. And we were mentioning 75% renewable energy, but Greece has the potential to be 100% renewable. Of course, in the energy transition, gas will be important, but maybe not the gas we're thinking about. Maybe the gas we're going to be able to produce ourselves thanks to the sun. Maybe hydrogen will be quickly another solution to meet the target. We realized also during this pandemic how important it is to produce locally. And I'm going to give you an example. During the blackout, we couldn't access to solar panels because they were stuck in China. We cannot continue like that. This is important. This is strategic for Europe. So we need, and we know how to do it, to produce again what is essential for this energy transition in our territories. And my friend from Enel, I've been showing the path in the past years with a new technology which comes from France, the heterojunction, which is a breakthrough technology for solar cells. And Enel is producing themselves their panel in Sicilia, in Qatar. So I think this pandemic made us realize how it is important to accelerate this energy transition and meet the target of being independent in terms of energy production. This is possible. This is technologically possible. And the EU Green Deal, and that was tough, during the first days of the EU Green Deal. There was a lot of lobby coming up in Brussels trying to say, okay, we should slow down. We're going to destroy jobs, so we should slow down. We must not slow down. We must accelerate. It's time to accelerate and to move to a new area where we will be producing ourselves, our energy for primary usage, but also for mobility. The car, whatever people think, will be electrical or will be in some cases hydrogen. And this pandemic has demonstrated how urgent it is to accelerate this transition.
Thank you very much. And it's really important what you said. The acceleration is a key factor, and the local production is another key. So we saw that during the lockdown, that local economies played a huge role compared to what we were accustomed to before. So, sticking to the COVID issue, Mr. Chantavas, I'd like you to give us both a local and an international perspective. So, since you can speak on both terms, how has the COVID, the pandemic, affected the energy market and your company especially? But also, what should we anticipate in the future, both regarding Greece and Europe in general?
No, thank you for giving me the opportunity. I'd like to, let's say, answer this question mainly wearing the hat of the president of SolarPower Europe that can give you some further information. I would not agree more with what Éric mentioned earlier. During the pandemic, we saw clearly that from the geopolitical point of view, universally, the only resource that can really make a country self-sufficient in terms of energy coverage is the renewable energy. Also, we saw clearly that there were delays in the supply chain from manufacturing out of the continent that was arriving in Europe. And of course, we faced problems because also the mobility was restricted of people. There were operations that had troubles, specialists couldn't fly from one country to the other. Based on a recent study by SolarPower Europe, we saw that the situation is not as bad as we were thinking back in June. So we were expecting a dip in the market in 2020 of 30%. Finally, we see it's going to be around 10%. But what was demonstrated clearly during these months is that the European Union must arrive into the necessary measures and policies to boost much faster the energy transition towards infrastructure, renewable energy, and making our continent a pioneer in reaching the targets much faster than others. So I think this is something that we all agree, and we must push in going faster to that direction.
Thank you very much, and I definitely agree with that. We need to do things fast, and we need to do these things in the right direction. So I'd like to revert to Minister Georgiadis, and I heard with great interest what you said about investments. On the other hand, there's the second pillar. The second pillar investment is funding, and it is in your ministry's mandate to facilitate funding in numerous ways. So you gave us a roadmap of things that are ahead regarding the European money and the way you're going to treat investments in this way. But how about local funding? What are your incentives? What are your goals towards providing investors with high quality local funding? And how can you achieve that? And how can you change the framework, if necessary, to facilitate that?
First of all, in order to give an answer to what my friend from Enel mentioned before, the almost 40% of the recovery funding and the 1/3 of the ordinary European funding have to go to green projects. So a huge amount of money of this funding will go to renewable energy, not only to renewable energy, because we have to have energy efficiency to buildings and chargers and everything that will help us use this renewable energy in a more efficient way. But the main funding will go to renewable projects. So funding will be here. And to answer to your question, yesterday, one of our first banks, National Bank of Greece, issued a green bond exactly in order to fund through the private banking sector this kind of projects as fast as possible. So both European Union, the government, and the private sector are combining their efforts in order to find initiatives and funding in order to make these big projects a reality. And if we manage to have a European efficient technology, and I'm very happy, because Europe, in the technology of renewable energy, is a protagonist globally. And maybe this is an era that Europe could thrive in the future and change the perception of European Union as a business-wise place for investors worldwide. So I think a very interesting era is starting. And I want to mention again that our government's will is to make Greece one of the first examples of this new era that will come. And of course, the target you mentioned, my friend, are very ambitious. I cannot hide that they are. I cannot hide that we have some stress if we will be able to achieve it. But the first year were much better than we had expected. You know that this year Greece had some days that had the biggest percentage of renewable energy day by day throughout Europe, which was for the first time in our history, and very happy to see it happening. And since we follow our plan about closing the lignite plants, we produce the need for more renewable energy. So we have the source and we have the need. So it will happen.
Thank you.
And of course, sorry to mention, hydrogen is also very interesting. And 1 week ago, when I had the meeting with Commissioner Breton, I officially applied Greece as one of the countries that want to participate to the IPC projects of European Union for hydrogen.
Thank you very much, Minister. And the examples you gave us are really indicative of the way things are shaping right now, and in terms of funding as well. So there's a bright future in green funding as well. Ambassador, as I said before, we have left some things that need to be answered, especially the bilateral relationships between France and Greece. Everybody understands that things have shifted a lot, and may I say have shifted a lot to the better during the last few months. So what's the current status between the two countries' relationships, and where are we heading, both in the energy sector, but also on a more wider perspective?
Yeah, thank you. I can be very short here. First, and because you referred to what happened very recently here in the region, obviously the respect of the Greek sovereignty is of paramount importance for France, and as Minister mentioned previously, we as France, we have stood on the side of Greece to help this country and the other one, Cyprus, to defend their sovereignty. Obviously, this is of paramount importance, and so we will continue to foster our strategic and defense relationship, having in mind a strategic partnership that we are preparing at the moment with Greece. As far as the economy is concerned, you may be aware that we have, let's say, more or less 100 French firms here, or Greek firms with French equity. This is big. And in particular, I appreciate the fact that during the gloomy decade that Greece has experienced, all those French firms have decided to stay and to maintain the level of employment as much as they could. So this is also an example of France being on the side of Greece. And last but not least, as far as energy is concerned, obviously you have all the prominent French firms here being interested with the Greek market, being interested with the opportunities that the minister has suggested, and to be blunt, we have the biggest ones. The biggest French companies, but we have also mid-cap companies or big mid-cap companies, for instance, as Akuo. And I'm really happy that the chairman of Akuo is here today. I'm certain that we can provide solutions, know-how, and the expertise that Greece needs to tackle the ecological transition here.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. And I'd like to move on to Mr. Scotto. And you heard the minister advocate the recovery plan and giving incentives both in terms of funding and also huge opportunities coming to the country through the recovery plan. So how does it affect your goals, and how do you plan to optimize it for your future investments in the country? And what are your future investments in the country going to be in the next in the time to come?
First of all, I'd like to come back on what the minister said. Today, we all have to understand that the mainstream is renewable. That's the mainstream. So what do we need exactly? We need exactly what the government is putting in place now. We need a stable, clear legal framework for investors and for developers. That's all we need. If we have that, and that's exactly what you're putting in place, money is not a problem. Money is everywhere, all over the world, and every single financial institution, they know that they have to fight against climate change, but that's not the main reason why they are investing in renewable. They're investing in renewable because that's the best way to invest today and for the future. And if they were still investing in fossil fuel, that would be a major risk for the future investment of their investors. So I'm very, very, very confident that from what I heard today, we have that stable and clear legal framework. So as Akuo and any developers on any company, we will feel confident to invest in the next coming months and for the next coming years, because as you know, we have a long-term vision for investment. There is one more point I'd like to address with you, is what we've done and what we achieved in France. Some years ago, I said to my team, guys, we must set up a website and we must call it Akuo Cup, and we must give the possibility to any citizens to invest in the energy transition and to invest into our project. Why? Because it changes dramatically the perception of the renewable energy and the transition. Why? Because you're putting your money, you're putting whatever you have. If you have 50 euro and you want to put it in a project nearby to you, you're creating jobs. Maybe your cousin is going to work in the wind farm or in the project. Your money is there, and you are participating and playing a role to fight against climate change. And you are also sharing profits with people like us, because we will still remain, even if we are Greek, we will still remain foreign investors going to a tiny island in Greece with 5,000 people. So the people there, they need to feel that we are with them. And if they want to participate to that goal, they can do it. It's easy. It's one click on the web. And that's exactly what I would like to bring to this country. Give the possibility, we'll have to talk to the Ministry of Economy, but give the possibility to any citizens in the country here, along the EU funding, along the big firm, insurance company, pension fund investing in the country, while the Greek citizens should not be able to participate. So that's my proposal, and I will be with you and give you the experience, and I'd like to share with you the experience we had in other countries and open it to any Greek citizens. That will be our plan.
Of course, Minister.
I will take very seriously this proposal. You know that Greek people invented democracy in the ancient times because they wanted to feel participating to everything. So maybe this is a good idea to make everybody feel that they participate in the transition energy era. Good idea. Thank you.
Mr. Chantavas, as we saw in your presentation, you already have invested in Greece and have put a lot of effort and money as well in the country during the last few years. What about now on, and in regards to the recovery plan, what opportunities for improvement, both in Greece and in your country's presence, in your company's presence in Greece, do you identify through the recovery plan?
I think that, as discussed, the recovery fund is a big commitment by the European Commission to support the way and open, let's say, the path in moving faster into decisions that we already made. So in this sense, I think it's a very big opportunity for the Greek government and all the governments of the European Union to address the money to the sectors that really can add value. One of them is clearly the renewable energy sector, but also other sectors such as infrastructure and innovation and modernization really needs some support. And I think that this strategic commitment should take place. I think in most of the cases, it already took place. And definitely the governments have decided that it doesn't make any sense to continue supporting any other investments that may have not, let's say, a brilliant future ahead. And in this sense, in energy, we mainly can talk about innovative, let's say, sources, about renewable sources, about hydrogen, fields that really can attract investment. Fossil fuels are something that has been, let's say, expired, I would say, since some years, because renewables have won in all other fields, in price competitiveness, in country geopolitical safety, and also in the battle for the climate change.
Thank you very much. And we have time for another round of questions. So moving back to the minister, the third pillar, the third important pillar is the reduction of bureaucracy and red tape. And I'm afraid during the last few years, actually last decade, I might say, we have seen a lot of projects being stagnant due to problems in bureaucracy. We've seen a lot of improvement during the last year, I have to admit that, but there is still a lot of room for fast-tracking projects and facilitating investors. Mr. Scotto mentioned the legal framework. I have to say that's an issue, and another issue is bureaucracy. Even if you have a legal framework, the implementation takes a lot of time. So what are your plans in this direction? What reforms, what actual reforms do you have in mind so as to speed up the process?
First of all, we talk not with words, but with our work. End of October of 2019, we voted our first law from the Ministry of Development and Investment that almost reduced all the obstacles in funding an enterprise, licensing an industry. We issued just 2 weeks ago the new common ministerial decree about industries and how they impact to the environment. And through the Ministry of Energy, we voted 2 laws in order to fast the licensing procedure of renewable energy. So we're working very hard. If at the end of October there will be the launch of doing business report, maybe because of the pandemic, it will not this year, but if it does, I'm sure that Greece will be upscaled to many positions because we work very hard. And if the pandemic hadn't come on March, we would be even better. But okay, we work because it's an effort, an ongoing effort. I cannot tell you that you can change everything in 1 year because you have to change the perception and the attitude and the way many people think. And it's not only legislation, this is a deeper thing, but the improvement is really huge. And last but not least, the ancient Greeks had a very important proverb and very interesting proverb. I will mention in ancient Greek in the beginning, and I will translate it after. Ουδέν κακόν αμυγές καλού. That means that you can never find the absolute bad. Always there's something good in it. The pandemic is, of course, a disaster, and everybody would wish that we never had it. But since it came, we tried to see what good we could take from it. And one big change is the digital transformation of our government. Things that we were planning to do it in the next 2 years made a reality in 15 days. And now, for the first time, through your cell phone, through Gov.gr, you can almost issue any kind of paper you need from the state. This is a huge change, but helps the investors and helps everybody to understand what they have to do in order to solve their problems with the state. And this reduced bureaucracy in a big way. Of course, we have some fundamental problems with our justiciar system, for example, that is still very slow. But even then, the digitalization of our Justinian system follows the plan and goes even faster. And we think in the next month you will see a big difference almost there. We'll establish court just for business reasons in order to issue decisions even faster and with total priority. And I'm sure that you will see that we mean business.
Thank you very much, Minister, and that's something that we are really looking forward to. We've seen a lot of improvement, but as you said, if we, especially in the judiciary system, if we see that happening and going to trial doesn't take years or decades and just takes a few months as it should, then that's going to be a huge leap for investments in, not only for investment, but for Greece in general. Your Excellency once says that you have to learn from the best. And it's definitely it's a certainty that France is at the forefront of investment and development. So I would like to ask you to describe us the main points of the French recovery plan, and especially in the field of green energy, so that can be used as an example for Greece as well.
Yeah, thank you. First, I would like to say that I am very, very happy and very proud that that France took the initiative, in fact, to create this recovery fund. The final decisions have not been made yet, as you know, because there are current discussions today at the European Council regarding the final decisions. But I'm quite confident that the heads of states and government will find the solution. In the post-COVID era, it is obvious that the recovery fund is and will be a game changer. But it will be a game changer provided that most of it is dedicated to future, and not to the support of the old economy. And this is why I have heard carefully to what the minister has said, and basically, as far as France and Greece is concerned, we are both committed to allocate most of this money to green transition. As far as France is concerned, it's the amount for the recovery fund is more or less 100 billion euros, and I can tell you that 1/3 of it will be dedicated to green transition. And I think we are along the lines of what Greece has decided to do. But because we have not much time, I just would like to emphasize what the minister has said and what the CEO of Akuo has said also. Being here for 1 year, and as I was posted in this country some years ago, I would like to stress the fact that Greece had a bad reputation regarding the implementation of projects and so on, and in particular the use of European money. This has been the Greek burden, let's say, for decades. But I would like to underline today the fact that much has been done, and especially for 1 year, much has been done to improve the situation. I'm really impressed by all the endeavors that are made by the government, by the parliament, by each minister to improve the situation. The legislative activity in this country is quite impressive. Obviously, we expect the decrease of application, but anyway, we feel that despite the COVID crisis, there is a real, genuine willingness to create an environment that is friendly for the business and for the foreign investors. Let me give you just one example in terms of simplifying the bureaucracy and red tape. It is obvious to me that things are better in the attribution of licenses and installation rights. I'm certain that the decisions you have made will reduce the delays that were necessary in this country to implement foreign investment. What you've done is very interesting, very bold, very creative sometimes. I think it helps the business, and now we have to concretize, obviously, and I'm certain that the recovery fund, for instance, will give you the means to accelerate, I would say. So congratulations, Minister.
Thank you. Let me just make a comment that I want to be publicized. One of the tools and the main things we did during COVID-19 was all the extra funding tools we fixed with our development bank. And we managed through the development bank to give liquidity to our economy and help the business to survive under this pandemic. Many people don't know, and I want to thank His Excellency, that our main consultant to the Greek Development Bank is the French Development Bank, in which we work them very closely every day. And we got a lot of good ideas about how we could do it in the best way we could. So thank you, Your Excellency, for that.
Thank you very much, Minister. And I'd like to stick to the funding issue and move on to Mr. Scotto. His Excellency said that Greece had a bad reputation in many fields, and I might add that funding in the previous years was another field where Greece really had a bad reputation. Either through lack of funding, it was not easy to obtain a liquidity in Greece, or if you were able to, it was coming at a very, very high price. You said earlier that now there's a competitiveness between the financial institution, the development bank plays a role. So coming to the actual business and to the actual funding, in what ways do you plan to finance your investment? Do you believe that now the local market is adequate, or are you discussing alternative sources of funding as well?
Since we opened the office here 2 years ago, we've always been talking with local banks here, Greek National Bank and different banks here, and I've been anticipating this period. And what I can tell you is that we have a lot of discussion with those financial institutions, and they are ready to finance their own market. Why? Because they know their market. And it's a virtual circle. You know, you are financing your market, so you're improving the stability of your market, you're improving the situation of your citizens. So there is a strong willingness of local banks to do it. But of course, we have massive investment to face, and we need the help. And that's why I'm glad to see that most of the recovery plan or what's coming up from the Green Deal will be allocated to those green investment in the future. That's very important. And this will attract other investors to share and to participate to this reconstruction. So, but personally, I have a dream. And this dream is what's happening is historical in Europe. We are all together demonstrating what is Europe. Collectively, we're going to help Greece, we're going to help other countries. Collectively, that's a choice. And in return, what we are expecting as European citizens is that Greece will do the best use of this money that will be allocated to this future investment in order to export in the future and to give a chance to other countries in Europe to access to cheaper energy. Thanks to the resource Greece is gifted, this is possible. And that will be a demonstration of a perfect and appropriated investment for the collectivity and all the citizens of Europe in Greece. This return, this give back you will give us in few years will be the demonstration of the fact that it was the best investment we could do after this COVID-19 situation. So as you understood, Akuo Energy is very, very confident in the coming days, and you can count on us to participate to this acceleration of the transition.
You are very welcome. Since you mentioned about what we are doing with European funding, I can today tell you officially that this year was the best year ever since day one we were in the European Union in absorbing European funding. We upscaled from 19th seat to the 3rd seat in 1 year about the speed we absorb European funding, and all the essays of European institutions that follow and monitor Greek economy that were issued a few days ago were thrilled about the progress we did in this era in Greece during the 1 year of this government. So I'm telling you again, feel confident. We mean what we say. We want to have a country that will have that will be reliable. And the bad reputation His Excellency mentioned, which was a problem for the country and we recognize as a problem, will be in the past. We are here to do what we say.
That's a really bold statement, Minister, and we're, as citizens of this country, we are really looking forward to seeing that become a reality, and that we know that will help us in every aspect of our lives. And Mr. Chantavas, given what has been said before, but given also what you mentioned during your presentation, repowering is a very important issue in the country's energy transition. How do you think that is possible, and what is your framework and your roadmap towards repowering in terms of what you're doing as a business as well in this sector?
No, I think it's important to highlight this. I mean, it's among, let's say, several proposals we have already discussed with the government. Repowering for Greece, I think it's a smart idea, because Greece was fortunate to attract among the first countries in the world a bulk of foreign investments in renewable energy, both in wind and solar. So at this, let's say, point of time, along other countries such as Italy or Spain, we have 20-year-old, 15-year-old facilities that really hold the position in areas that have a very big resource. So in my point of view, it's a smart idea to start discussing on the way on how to exploit these areas, how to modernize the equipment, how to install new wind turbines in already impacted areas. Just to give you an idea, if you have an area with 10 meters per second as a wind resource, and you need to install a specific capacity, to install the same capacity in an area with 5 or 6 meters per second, you need, let's say, almost double capacity. So in this case, we must be prudent. We must try to do the exercise, both in wind and solar, and understand what can we modernize. My feeling is that we can attract some gigawatts of investments in this without impacting new areas, without opening new battles with local communities, and discussing already with the current impacted areas. I think it's a smart idea due to the specific nature of Greece that attracted many investments in the early 2000s. And I think that the government understands it, and probably we will need some initiative to this field to try to build a framework.
Yes. You know that we already have a cooperation on these issues. You are right. We have to find ways to engage local communities better to all these projects. We don't need battles, to be honest. I'm sure that the society is maturing much faster than we think, and the people that were reacting are much less now, reduce their tensions, because it's not just a matter of government decision. The society has decided to change. So you will see that the months to come will be much, much faster than you ever expected. But of course, I have to say that Enel is one of the most important investors in this country.
At this point, I'd like to thank every one of you. It was a really fruitful and insightful discussion. And to tell you the truth, it makes me leave this panel a lot more optimistic, actually. One last comment.
I have one last word, because with my friend from Enel and our team, I'd like to thank the team because they've been working overnight to finish the writing of an agreement between Enel and Akuo Energy. And we decided to join forces in Greece, in PV, in solar PV, to accelerate the energy transition. So we will be signing in the coming days the work that has been finished overnight. And I'd like to thank everybody for that.
And that's a prime example of doing business. Once again, thank you very much. And we'll have a 5-minute break and then moving on to the next panel regarding the regulatory authorities. Thank you very much.